Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life Boost here. My name is Ryan Barrio, and I would like to thank you all for watching and listening to my content. It is available on over 35 podcasting channels and 10 social media platforms. Today, in this episode, I am speaking with a current police officer and motivational speaker from the Calgary Police Service that is making a great, substantial impact to those that have been bullied throughout Canada. He is the founder and CEO of Bullying Ends Here. Bullying Ends Here is a series of educational presentations for youth and adults aimed at educating others on what bullying looks like and how to prevent it. They have been credited with saving dozens of lives and being shared with over 1 million people worldwide. He is creating active change by becoming a motivational speaker and being in his element about bullying. He is a hero to those that are suffering from within. He is also an author and has published 3 books. Links will be in the description below. He has a true heart of gold and is completely dedicated to the cause he represents. He succeeded his dreams of becoming a police officer since the age of 5, even though all the hurdles he has faced. He has worked hard for his dreams, truly a mentally tough individual and extremely motivating. He presented in TED Talks about his story and inspiring those around the world. The video will also be in the description below if you're interested to watch his beautiful story. Would love to introduce Tad Milmine to my show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to be able to sit down with a man that is creating positive change, positive impact within Canada and really trying to break the stigma of bullying. And it's really great to kind of meet an individual that is making that type of impact. And the passion that you have behind that is so beautiful. And it's going to be a pleasure to gain insight on that. What are some things about yourself that made you want to save lives and make a difference for others?
Wow. Kind of a loaded question because there are so many parts of, being 47 years old that looking back, there are so many times in my life that I guess I imagined wanting to help people or in that moment of wanting to help. Moments of wanting to be in a position to hold others accountable for what they've done, even to make that change. And I guess it started at 5 years old. It's I just remember not even so much as wanting to grow up to necessarily be a police officer, but I wanted to grow up to be a person that could help others. And I mean, at 5, I don't. I can't say I necessarily had a specific role in society that I felt. It was just that desire to want to help. And I think that it comes from, at that time, I guess inadvertently, I was hoping to be helped. So it's, fast forward to all these years later and being in that spot and making sure I hold those memories very close, even though they are painful at times and triggering at times, but it's those moments, those memories that make everything I do genuine and from the heart, because I know what I know what it's like.
And it's good that you have that connection in that experience. What are some of the traumas that you faced in the past, and what have you done to overcome those traumatic experiences?
Well, I mean, it started at 5 years old, as I've hinted at a little earlier. My parents were very argumentative, a lot of domestic disturbances, a lot of violence was taking place between them. I don't necessarily remember seeing it, but I definitely remember hearing it. The slamming doors, the screams, the yelling at each other, the stomping up the stairs. I mean, all those sounds that as a child, your mind is filling in the blanks as to what's happening, why it's happening. And so they made the adult decision to get a divorce. I stayed with my father. It was my mom who was the one to leave. My dad was an alcoholic. It's always hard to kind of explain, but I guess oftentimes as adults, when we hear the word alcoholic, we have a lot of negative inferences in life as to what we imagine that to be. And I guess I would have to say none of those are applicable to my dad. My dad was still very caring, very kind, very loving. The challenge was that when something was going on in his life that he needed to or should have been talking about, communicating or addressing, dealing with even, he wasn't comfortable doing it. So he turned to alcohol to kind of drown those needs and just hoped it all went away. So I was left with him. it wasn't long after the divorce that he met the new woman of his dreams and invited her to come and live in the house. I knew right then, as I still know to this moment, that she absolutely hated me. So I was from that point on confined to the basements of my house. That basement was simply 4 cement walls, cement floor, 1 light bulb, no heat, no air conditioning, boarded up windows, no toys. It was a dungeon, really. But I didn't know any better. That was my life. That was my reality. So, but everything, accumulating over time was the being locked, the isolation. She screamed at me all the time. There was physical abuse. And I just held it all in. It's my fix to everything. And I'm sure in a way it comes from my father, was to hold it in and kind of hope that everything went away. Alcohol wasn't anything that I was able to do at the time. And it's still not anything that I really turn to when I have any issues. It was just, you put the head on the pillow at night and you hope and you wait and you wish for everything to happen and change and be better. But that didn't happen. It just continued to get worse. And then the only time I was allowed out of the basement was to go to school. But I was horrifically introverted. I'm still extremely introverted as a person. I just found a way to kind of overcome it for periods of time, whether it's at work, whether it's on stage, whether it's doing a presentation. I put it aside. But then as soon as it's all over, it's kind of like the act is over and go to act 2, which is just wanting to be by myself and watch the Blue Jays or, just chill with my puppies. So it was just one of those things that I didn't address it. So the bullying started and it manifested over time because the same thing, holding it in, hoping, waiting, wishing. That didn't work for me. It didn't, and I don't think it works for really many people. It's if you don't address it in some way, then it's only going to manifest and keep building inside. And it's for me, that meant extreme bouts of depression, dealing with suicidal ideations, an attempt at suicide. It just kept adding up. And it's for me, the breaking point was an attempt on my life, and waking up the next day was my reality. I was so angry at myself. It was my reality of I needed to create positive change. And that positive change, as I learned at that age, I was probably early 20s, was the positive change was not going to come externally. It wasn't going to come from around me. It was going to come from within me. And it took a long time to understand that. But ever since I did start to realize that everything positive starts from within, then life became a lot easier. It's if that's a word to describe life, but I did find it became a lot easier because I realized I was fully in control of everything, including the people around me.
And it's good when you're able to identify that as a healthy relationship for yourself. And we really need to learn the ability to love ourselves and understand that, being bullied and being in these situations is not a natural behavior. These things are not normal things. And over time, when people are in these situations, they think that this is the normal life. And then they go into a relationship where it's actually positive and they're actually scared of that positive relationship because of the fact of all these traumas that are going on between individuals, right? And being a child like myself, I was extremely bullied for many years, to the point where I was psychologically abused, to the point where people made fun of my identity for who I was. And it happened for so many years where I also did suffer depression. I did have suicidal thoughts. And, there was a time and place where I felt like I didn't get the help that I needed. And by simply standing up for yourself and just saying, hey, I'm capable of doing anything if I put my mind to it, is going to be your number one goal, is just believing in yourself and having that mental toughness to identify and say, hey, I'm better than this. I want to grow. I want to change. I don't want to be the reflection of my past.
Right.
And it's really good to hear your insight and to really understand what is really going on in society, and understanding that you're not just the only one individual, but this is happening everywhere in Canada. And you've helped thousands of people overcome this. How have you enjoyed your time with your company with Bullying Ends Here?
Well, I mean, I love it, but at the same time, I'm sad that it's even required. But for as long as I know there are people young or older in society that are struggling, then I think that's why a program such as mine works. And it's so simple. It's like there's no studying. I didn't go to school for this. It's no coaching, nothing like that. I just simply share my story, and I share it without graphics, without video, without like music. It's I stand there in front of an audience for an hour and I just talk, and I take everyone through what I went through, how it felt, what I took away from it, and what I kind of did to help get through. So as you mentioned in the introduction, it was hanging on to that dream of what I now know. I wanted to be a police officer, and looking back, I realized it was a police officer all along. I was dreaming and wishing to become. I just didn't know because I wasn't exposed to what was taking place out there. So what I do is the most simplest of things, and I think that's why it's so effective, because you just share. It's easy to tell people they're not alone. I mean, everybody has heard that. We see it, we hear it on TV, the news, in our classrooms, in school. We have all been told we're not alone. So that's covered. We don't need to tell anyone that anymore. What we need to do is show them that they're not alone. And you can't lead a horse to water if, I don't even know what that saying is, so I don't even know why I started there, but you can't make somebody to get help. You can bring all the help around them. You can tell them, you can introduce them, but if they're not ready from the inside, then it's going to be ineffective. So I show them, and the showing is by leading them through. There are no, I don't hold anything back. I don't, I break some of those stereotypes down as far as sexuality, as far as policing, as far as being a genuine, honest human being. I talk about mental illness. I talk about medications. I talk about things that a lot of people aren't either comfortable, ready, or willing to talk about. And it's to me, it's an absolute no-brainer. We just need more people to show young people that they're not alone. In time, they will get to know that they're not alone. And when they are ready from the inside out, they'll come forward. But I mean, you look at youth in schools, and they're looking for adult mentorship. They're looking for people to look up to, whether it's an actor, maybe it's a musician, maybe it's a parent, a relative, a teacher, anyone in their lives. So anybody can do what I'm doing, because every single person, no matter their age, has a story. But if the kids don't have anyone in their life to look up to, so for instance, maybe a broken home, maybe they're like me, they're not allowed to go out. So the only possible leadership or mentors that they have in their lives are going to be the negative, then we need to find another way to get through to them. And that's where I think just sharing my life story in a school is having that impact.
Yeah. And you're really reaching out to thousands of people and really trying to share that story, really trying to grow it and bring awareness to understanding that this is a worldwide issue too. And understanding that if we don't make the change, if we don't step up for that change, then nobody is going to make that change, right? We, like you said, we only talk about it, but we need to actually show it and make sure that it can happen. And with you being able to do this with Bullying Ends Here, where you're actually going to be able to meet people one-on-one and really make impact and save lives and really connect and build relationships and grow and build a network of positivity, right? We're in this world of negativity right now. And it's just great to know that there is places out there that can offer assistance for people that are suffering from bullying, right? And youths and children suffer huge within this, and it can affect their adulthood extremely. And and my question to you is what other ways can youth and children get help if they are getting bullied? What are some ways for them to reach assistance?
Well, I mean, it's all going to depend where it's happening, but let's just say you're general school age person. chances are it's going to be, if not a combination of the in-person and cyber, it's probably going to be more of the cyber side of things. So there's two perspectives to take on that. One is going to be for the young person themselves. And of course, this can be transposed to adults and in the workplace and everything. It's bullying is bullying no matter our age. It does the same thing. It works the same way. It's just a matter of, as adults, we have a little bit more life skills, an understanding of how things work. And we're more in control of our emotions and our environments compared to what a child is when they have to go to school and they have to go home. They don't have so much life experience as well. So, I mean, the first thing is the young person needs to surround themselves with positive. If they have people in their lives, including friends, that are essentially bringing them down, making them feel bad, anxiety, that sort of thing, then you need to clear that out of your life. It's, I say to people all the time that when you think of your friend right now, if you were to describe that person to me, would it be positive thoughts? Would it be, when you describe them, do you just naturally start to smile a little bit because you're just almost giddy, like you're happy to talk about that person? Or are your memories and descriptions on the negative side? You know what? Like every time I talk to that person, it's always, the world's a dark place, or, so-and-so is this, or so-and-so is that. Then you know what? That's probably not the right person for you, because you are in control of your environment. If you want positivity around you, put positivity around you. If you don't have to allow people into your lives. I know it's a little more difficult in schools, but at the end of the day, the people that you talk to on social media, like kids in Snapchat and texting and, all the other apps that they're using, they're fully in control of that. But on the flip side, because bullying has now kind of morphed from the schoolyard to the 24/7, the online cyberbullying, is that there is a very simple way to remedy this. And that is if parents were to monitor what their kids are doing on the internet. I think back to when I would have been in high school, if I had been in a loving, caring situation. I mean, obviously, when I was that age, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones. We hadn't even heard of these things. But when there was like potential exposure to like a dirty magazine, as they were called back then, I mean, if your parents ever saw you with something like that, I mean, they would have slapped it out of your hand. They would have grounded you. You would have been, disciplined in some way. Like that was just wrong. But yet nowadays, not only are kids having a lot more exposure than what you would in a magazine to the internet, but there's no understanding of what they're looking at. There's no kind of knowledge base to what they're seeing is not love. It's television. And when they start getting to that stage of puberty, so junior high, it's they start to figure out hormones, and they start to have attractions to people, and they think that what they've been watching on the internet for the last many, many years is, in order to show love, you go and pinch and you grope and you make out. And that is not the way you express interest in somebody else. But they don't know any better because no one has been monitoring anything they're doing, and we don't teach it. It's there are parents out there that believe that topics like that should not be discussed in school. It should be up to the families, and I understand all avenues of approach to it. My whole point is that kids are going 100% unchecked, and I can't really think of many people that I've asked over the years, do your parents look at your phones and go through your chats and look at your pictures? And when I talk to parents about this, I'm not approaching it from the point of look at your children's phones and look for what's wrong, look to find bad stuff. It's absolutely the opposite of what I'm encouraging, is get an understanding of what your kids are doing, what they're researching, what they want to know. You're going to see it in a Google search. If they are looking at pornography, then maybe it's time to have a little bit of a chat about the birds and the bees, or the bees and the bees, or whatever you want to chat about. It might be time. But you're also going to start to also see how they're interacting with others on the internet. And that's the primary focus of how kids interact nowadays. That's just their world. They've been brought up with social apps. That's how you do communicate. Even if you're sitting in the same room, you still text the person that's there. So if parents were to monitor how their children are interacting with others and vice versa, how kids are interacting with your children, you're going to get a pretty good idea right away if there's something wrong. And it's whether it's the chats they're having, whether it's the Google searches they're watching, whether it's the pictures that they have on their phone. I mean, if you just looked at the phone, you can potentially knock out any potential for cyberbullying. You can remove any potential for sexting. That's going to come back to haunt young people. It's very, very common right now because you're going to see what pictures they have on their phone, but you're also just going to understand your child a little bit more, because right now we have a disconnect between adults and children because adults didn't grow up in this world. We didn't grow up talking to anonymous people on the internet. We didn't grow up taking dirty photos of ourselves, naughty photos, whatever the words are that we use. We didn't grow up in a world like that. So we don't necessarily understand why our kids are doing it. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer, but if we don't have 100% buy-in, then we're not going to have 100% correction.
Yeah. And understanding that sexual identity behind it, and people are lost being like, what is my sexual identity? What do I want to become? You look at social media accounts nowadays and things are much different than what the real world is. Everyone's happy. Everyone's doing their life. And every single day when they're looking at their social media, it's a dopamine hit. And they're just like, hey, why can't I be like this? And then over time, it becomes long-term depression, anxiety, and stress. And it's good to identify this for your children, because long-term stress can actually cause serious health issues for your child, but also for the well-being of themselves, right? And being able to go to college or university, they have to have a certain amount of education and knowledge about sex and certain knowledge about health to really identify that. And as a person that was sexually abused, where I had a lot of confusions with my sexual identity, really being able to understand what's going on and being a victim of bullying on top of that, you're like, well, if no one likes me and, I don't even know what I like, I'm going to jump to social media and I'm going to start talking to anonymous people and I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start doing that, because all we want is love and connection and understanding. But however, there's a way to go around it. And the best way to do it is through having good communication with the people you love.
Sure.
And talking to your parents, talking to a good friend, speaking to someone that you can trust, right? And there's nothing wrong with going out there and really reaching that awareness to help people understand that they're not alone and they have the resources to be successful, which is awesome. That's a really good perspective. What you just said, it's really beautiful.
Thank you.
What are your future plans with Bullying Ends Here? Do you want to keep growing it? Do you want it to expand throughout the States? Are you trying to, what are you trying to do?
My focus has never changed. It's Ryan. It's the exact same today as it was 9 years ago when I decided to do it. It was just to help just one person. I most likely will never know who that person is. I don't need to know. In your heart of hearts, you just know. You know you've helped someone, and there are so many ways to measure whether or not my program is working, and that's the simple fact that you mentioned. Having shared with over 1 million students. It's like that is physically in person. I have shared my story with over 1 million students. I'm not talking about social media. A newscast, that's all totally separate. This is just in person. And as I shared with you before we went live, it's I don't reach out to people and say, hey, can I come talk to your students? Can I come to do a local interview? I don't do any of that. It's I just be me. And if other people feel as though what I did was effective with their students or with their community or their groups, then it'll happen naturally. The word of mouth will simply, grow. So I sit back and I wait for the requests and I make everything work. And it started with just being in Surrey, and that word of mouth traveled outside of Surrey and then outside of British Columbia. And now it's outside of Canada. And, I've spoken at, well over 1,200 schools in Canada alone, probably over 100 schools in England, a couple dozen in Scotland, Amsterdam. So word of mouth just keeps going. So where do I want the charity to go? What do I want it to do? It's still the same. I'll keep talking. I'll keep sharing for as long as somebody wants to listen. And when the requests stop coming, well, I guess you just slowly go to doing whatever else life, brings upon me. It's a journey. And the only thing I think as far as planning wise that I've ever done is just trying to understand what youth, because they are my focus, the junior high school range and university, just trying to understand what would work best for them in order to reach me. So with every presentation, I always share, here's my website, here's my Instagram, here's my Facebook. I mean, whatever you want to get in touch with me, whatever you're most comfortable with, shy of a phone call, because it can't be monitored. And I think it's very important that everything have a way to be monitored, if nothing else, just to have a record of what was discussed so that we know how to go about that conversation when we move forward. So for instance, if there's a few months in between, chances are if I had a phone call, I'm not going to remember what we spoke about because I speak to so many people. But if I have that record that I can go back and kind of refresh my memory, then I think that's very important. So I throw it out there and I let youth just simply message me. I make it very clear I'm not crisis. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy named Tad that has a story just like everyone else. And if you want to reach out and say hi, by all means, please do. I promise I'll say hi back. It may not be today, but it's always going to be pretty darn quick, because if I'm awake, it's I'm responding. It's just what I do. So I guess where I'm going with that is that recognizing that Instagram isn't going to be around forever. Like all of these apps, kids, they change their apps all the time. So I just created an app. So people can now go to the app. They can anonymously report. And this is one of first of its kind in this country, is that you can report an incident. You don't have to provide me any information whatsoever about who you are. It comes directly to me. So the app is extremely basic. When you look at it, you're like, what's the big deal? But it's the behind the scenes that works. So Ryan, if you wanted to report an incident to me, but you don't want to say who you are, you can just fill out all the tabs that are important. But basically it would be like, you saw a fight today at Glenview Park Secondary School, which was my high school back in the day. It happened on noon hour on today's dates. And here's what I saw, but I don't know who to tell. So it comes to me. Now, what I can do is I can send a message back to you through the app. So again, I have no idea who you are, but I can say, you know what, thank you so much for sharing that. Can you tell me like a little bit more about what the person was wearing? Do you remember, did they have anyone else around? So I can kind of fill in a little bit of the blanks so that I can get an understanding of where does this report need to go? Is this just somebody that wants to vent and get it off their chest? Or is this something that maybe I need to send it to maybe the school administration or the local authorities, or, just say, hey, is there someone that you think I should send this to, and send me their email type of thing. So it's the behind the scenes. So I'm making it so not only can people message me in a way that it's private, but I know who they are. So for instance, Instagram, but they can also do it anonymously through the app. And no one is ever going to know what they said unless you have my password to get into the app for the behind the scenes. It's just me and them. So it's like kind of like a live chat, but totally private. No one has access to it. So, and then recognizing that bullying is not limited to kids. So I had to bring kind of some partnerships in place. So a workplace bullying expert just joined our team this year, and a cyberbullying social media responsibility experts, former police officer for the Victoria Police Department in BC. So he and his team have joined. So we're kind of covering all those bases, because I can't pretend to know everything. I simply have a story. I know how it felt, and I have a bit of the legal background now because of being a police officer. But not everything is needing police. In fact, very little of bullying needs the police. It just needs help. And that can be from anybody. So if I can be that person, it goes right back to the very reason what my goal was from the very first moment I knew I was going to do something, I just want to be able to help one person. That's it.
That's extremely beautiful. And it was great to speak with you and gain insight about what is going on in our society, and really understanding that this is an issue and that bullying has been still an ongoing issue. And there's ways to communicate if you need help, and there's ways to talk about it. And it's really beautiful for me to even sit with you today and to gain this insight. And I would just like to thank you for being on my show. It's been incredible to gain your perspectives and really understand that you're not alone, and saying, hey, we're here to help you in any way we can, whether if it is, yes, venting it away and talking about it, because that alone is healthy. And it's good that your story is now impacting millions, literally millions, and it's beautiful. So I would like to thank
everyone
you again.
Has a story, Ryan. Everybody has a story. We just have to be genuine. We have to be ourselves. Kids are watching, they're listening, they're absorbing. So let's create that world of positivity, of support, of love. And the trickle down effect it's going to be noticeable. It's going to be noticeable for sure.
It'll be very beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for being able to talk to me. Thank you guys for listening to my content. And I hope that you guys all have a wonderful day. Thank you.